Welcome. My name is Dr. Rosie Branciforte, and I am presenting this evening a Creating a Course module, and this is for my Digital Professor Certification experience. So, as I decided to begin this creation of this module, I first looked at the overview and the purpose. Well, students enter the EAP program by testing. The scores that they receive are used for level placement, and that will be from level 1 to level 6. The students move through the levels. They practice reading, writing, speaking, listening, and grammar skills, depending on the course. This particular module I'm using to deepen their experience with different type of texts, as well as deepen their reading experience. The focus in level 5 is to expand and practice the skills that they've started to develop in levels 1 through 4. The specifics that I focus on in this particular course overall is discussion, vocabulary, listening, and reading. So, when we look at the course level outcomes for the course, there's actually 5. I've chosen 3 to focus on in this particular module. The first one is communicate effectively inside and outside the classroom. The second one is demonstrate receptive and productive knowledge of academic vocabulary. And the last one is demonstrate comprehension of college level lectures and reading materials. So I'm going to address each one of them one at a time. The first, communicate effectively inside and outside the classroom. That is the learning outcome. Now, the performance indicator for this particular one is students will analyze photos and discuss their meanings by writing one-word initial post and a two 50-word peer responses in complete sentences with no more than one grammatical error. And of course, as I get into the module, I'll explain more what that really looks like. So now, as we go to the next learning outcome, demonstrate receptive and productive knowledge of academic vocabulary, the performance indicator for this, well, actually I have 2 now. The students will analyze photos and discuss their meanings by writing one 100-word initial post and 2 50-word peer responses in complete sentences with no more than one grammatical or mechanical error. Yes, I've repeated it. And that's the incredible thing about these particular learning outcomes and performance indicators. They don't operate by themselves. They are all intertwined. And I think that's important to understand because vocabulary is in almost everything. Reading and comprehension is almost everything. So I think that's why this course is so cool, honestly, and I love to teach this course because there are just so many. It's like a spider web, that there are so many avenues you can go on, travel on, and still manage to have students master some skills. But anyway, I digress. The second performance indicator, students will use context clues, word structure, comprehension to choose 15 words from Unit 1, demonstrating understanding of words by writing a definition and one sentence for each word with no grammatical or mechanical errors. Now, what's so cool about this is the first time I ever taught this class, I came up with this idea and I explained to the students that here in the United States, and you have to remember, many of them have not attended elementary school here in the United States. Many of them, when they came to this country, ended up either in middle school or high school. So they were shocked to hear that the spelling word situation that happened in the elementary school. You know, you get the words on day 1, you have to write them 5 times, 10 times if you happen to be bad that day in class. The next day you had to put them in a sentence. The next day you had to perhaps make a definition or put them in a story. And then, of course, the last day, which was Friday, you always had a spelling test. So I told my students I wasn't going to force them to write the sentences, to write the words 100 times, but I really wanted them to work on definitions and writing the words in sentences. So the first time that they did it, it was interesting because they sort of enjoyed it. And so from that point on, which was about 3 years ago, I've always used this particular assignment because I like it and it works. Okay, so that takes care of that performance indicator. Now, I went backwards, I'm sorry. So the last learning outcome is demonstrate comprehension of college level lectures and reading materials. For this, again, I'm going to have 2 performance indicators. The first, students will examine a passage, use vocabulary to identify main ideas, supporting details and conclusion, and then organize their notes to earn a score of 16 out of 20 on a quiz. Now, this particular one relates to the reading exercise I have in class, and that score means that they could only get 1 question wrong. The second performance indicator, students will practice active listening and note-taking strategies by viewing a video and then using notes as a study guide to earn a score of 9 out of 10 on a quiz. Again, that equals 1 question wrong. I will explain more about these, the actual assignments, and they'll make more sense when I get to the actual module. And here we are. This is what the module looks like. We start off with a preview, then we go to a PowerPoint, which is actually a lesson. We then go to a discussion. We then go to an assignment, which is that build your vocabulary. The first reading exercise, then we have a quiz on that reading exercise, and then we have a video, and then here is the quiz on the video. Okay, so I truly believe that the way I've set this up, students will know exactly what needs to be done, as well as what is required, and also what is due. This preview, which I'll go to that slide next, this particular preview puts everything in perspective. I really believe that it shows where everything is due. Now, in a usual class, what I would do is I would also put this in an announcement, which goes in the announcement section of the classroom. But I like to put them in the modules as well, only because I know that sometimes students don't necessarily visit the announcement section. So, and I like to keep everything, I'm sort of a neat freak and a control freak, and I like to keep everything in order. So I believe that putting it here will help the students, because if they're visiting the modules, this is where this information should be. And I really think that the order is important. So the order that they have the preview in is the exact order that the module is in. Again, because I like order, and I think that students do as well, and they appreciate that. So it's the same sequence. The material here is all for purpose of the preview really sets the stage for the week. It explains to the students a little bit about everything, not enough that they don't have to go to that they don't. What I was really trying to do with this is intrigue the students. Let me just read one. The PowerPoint. Okay, it is burger time at Valencia College. Enjoy yours as we explore how to break down, break apart, and put back together a paragraph for understanding, discovering the main ideas and points, and interpreting written material. Let your imagination run free as we construct our burgers. This presentation will provide you with tools to help you with the readings and assignments this week. Watch and listen twice and take notes. So I've always found that if you intrigue somebody with something, what is she talking about? This is not a cooking class. What's the burger have to do with any of this? So I believe that because of that, they will actually go and listen to the video, and they may actually get something out of it. At least I hope they will. So now I've also talked about what the reading includes. Again, talking about what the chapter is called, and then the different readings that are in it. I've talked about the discussion, and then I went to the build the vocabulary exercise, then explained the reading passage. And again, by explaining the reading passage, I didn't do much. I just sort of put a little bit of, wow, this might be really cool. It is here, and it's all around us. The coronavirus has changed our lives, from the way we play, shop, visit, pray, or attend school. This article puts the pandemic in perspective and offers some hope. Read it and take notes. Again, just 2 sentences, but enough to intrigue someone that will, and hopefully every one of the students that will say, wow, that sounds pretty cool. I thought it was quite unique that I actually found this particular reading in the on the internet. Anyway, so moving on. This is talking about the quiz that has to do with the reading passage, and then finally the video. And I'll talk more about the video when we get to that point. And of course, completing the quiz on photographer's life. So that's the preview. So now we get to the actual PowerPoint. And again, I'm just going to sort of talk over myself because I did put the recording in here, just so. Here it is.
We're going to discuss,
and it is burger time.
How to break down a reading passage. Now, this particular presentation will focus on the paragraph. Obviously, many of the readings that we do have multiple paragraphs. But in reality, what you need to learn to do is break down each paragraph as you read through a piece. And then when you get to the end, you can put all of the information together. So let's see what I'm talking about. Let's start with the burger.
And there you have it. And it continues on, and I explain what the top bun is, the topic sentence, and then I talk about the supporting details, and finally we get to the conclusion, which is the bottom bun. I have pictures of all the parts of the burger, just trying to drive the point across that when you are reading a paragraph, every paragraph is important in a passage, and these students have to learn how to break down these paragraphs. When we get to the midterm, and then when we get to the final, the reading selections are approximately 8 to 9 paragraphs long, and then there are typically 10 to 15 questions on that selection. So I really do a lot of reading comprehension and driving the point home of you just don't read, you have to actually break it down. I try to explain to them, this is not like reading People magazine. This is more of, what is this author trying to tell me? So anyway, that's my PowerPoint. The next slide will be the discussion. That's the next thing on the list. And what I've done here is created this discussion based on, this is the other text that we use in class, the academic encounters. I'm not going to use it for this module. I will be using it for future modules, but those are the photos, and basically the students are analyzing. They're looking at the photos and really determining what they mean, and the question is, what do the photographs show, and what way the families do you see similar, and how are they different? So there's a lot of analysis that is involved here. So we're bringing the discussion into this module to bring up we're going up the Bloom's taxonomy scale. So and I think that's important, and these students are ready to do this. I've actually used this already in my current class, and I could not believe the discussions. They were really very deep. You know, and some students replied, you know, looks like there's a lot of people in that. It reminds me of my country. So it was really quite, it was touching. Believe it or not, it was touching. So, and of course, I've explained the Wednesday and the Sunday, because students are okay now, but last semester when we had the switch over, that Wednesday, Sunday was quite a shock to them because they were not prepared for that. They didn't know that. So it was a learning curve, and I think that the learning curve has worked, and students are very comfortable now. But anyway, so once they've done with the discussion, we can move on, and we go to this building your vocabulary assignment. And this again is the assignment I was talking about, the words, finding 15 words and putting them in a sentence as well as a definition. I've also introduced, whether they know it or not, a little bit of APA, which is something that they're going to have to deal with in next semester's courses in level 6, because obviously those courses really focus on writing. So we've talked about the 12-point Times New Roman in the black regular font. And when I do my Zoom meetings, my recent Zoom meeting, and we were talking about this particular assignment, I was explaining to them that they have to learn how to follow these directions, because when they go into the writing classes, they will be using APA. And APA has a lot of formatting, and this is the first step. And they actually followed this, so it worked. Okay, so when we move past this, we come to reading comprehension, and this is the article on the coronavirus. And the whole point of this was so that they start to take notes and start to argue with the text. And in my Zoom meetings, I explained to them that, I want them to argue with the text and question the text, write on their notes, in their notes, is this correct, is it not correct, and actually literally just rip it apart. And again, do it paragraph by paragraph. The interesting thing about, as each of these items down the list go on, you start to realize that everything is interconnected. Okay, and that's what I was trying to do. You start with the PowerPoint, which explains how to do a paragraph. You go to the discussion, which you're actually looking at something and analyzing it, and then we're coming to this particular the vocabulary, which you need the vocabulary. And then we come to this assignment, and you're actually reading something and trying to make sense of it. And this is the end of it. Then we move to the very end of it, and then there's the quiz, which looks like this. I decided not to put a lot of questions on this particular one, because I try to build up the number of questions that I'm using. By the time they get to the midterm, they will have a 10 questions to 15 questions. So I will build, as we go along, the number of questions that they are responding. So this was 5 questions, okay, and let's see here. And then from this, we went to the video. Now, previously we had a text, and I don't even remember what it was called, but it was horrible. And we adopted this particular video. This particular text, and it is it's called Reading Explorer. It's a Cengage product, and I had no clue that they had actually purchased National Geographic Learning. And this particular book is just incredible. It has videos on topics that you wouldn't necessarily even think about putting in. There's one on singing mice. This particular one is interesting. The book itself has reading passages, and the passages are also quite interesting. Different topics, amazing topics, topics that are really very interesting. They're not dull at all. The students love this textbook. So anyway, the first video that's in the book is A Photographer's Life. One of the stories in the book is how this young lady, Annie Griffiths, actually got started in the business, which was interesting because students were actually saying, wow, I had no idea that she started out, she had a little camera, and from there she went to college, was working on a local newspaper, ended up somehow clicking with National Geographic, and now she's been all over the world. So that was the reading part, and then the video is her explaining what her life is actually like. And of course the videos are phenomenal because they are National Geographic, and the reason I like them also is that they are closed captioned, and that's how they start.
I got started in photography kind of by accident.
So there you have it. If you'd like to listen to the whole thing, go right ahead. When I was setting up my class, I got hung up on actually listening to all of them, and the students love them. You know, I really asked the students if they were just telling me that because I wanted to hear it, but they actually enjoy them. Of course, the next module is the video on the photographer's life. Again, I only did 5 questions, and the questions are multiple choice, true and false. I was basically just managing. I didn't go up the Bloom scale yet with the questions. I will as I go along in my class, but to start with, I just tried to stay with basic information. Okay, and that's the end of the quiz. And so now let's talk about, in general, additional comments that I'd like to make about this module. Well, I truly believe that my assignments and my exercises are set up to build upon one another. The Unit 1 material introduces vocabulary and interesting stories, and that the Unit 1 material I'm talking about is the textbook, the Reading Explorer textbook. My PowerPoint, that was the first item on the list, has tools to help students deconstruct paragraphs, and I think that is so important. It's a skill that you have to develop, or else you will never ever understand what you're reading. I think that the skills that I've touched on in this particular module will help students be successful in understanding the readings and of course applying to the quizzes. The modules that I developed focused on reading, listening, and vocabulary. And the 3 learning outcomes all have connecting indicators, like I said, and the 3 are really driven by vocabulary, reading, and listening skills. You can't have one without the other. The quizzes will provide immediate feedback for the students. That's how I've set it up. And the discussions, I always discuss my my goodness, excuse me, grade my discussions on Monday after the week is complete. So additional comments, equitable concerns. There are no accessibility issues exist in the module. I made sure of that. I've checked everything. Any photos have alternate text. I mean, even the at some point in time, I realized that the VC, which stands for Valencia College, that created a problem. So I put alternative text on that as well. And I also believe that the readings and the exercises and the videos and the quizzes can be accessed by all, no matter what the issue is. They can be accessed. Inclusivity, I don't think there are any inclusive concerns either. There's no accessibility issues that exist in the module. The readings, the exercises, the videos, and the quizzes, they offer the culture of belonging, involvement, participation, and contribution for all. And one last thing, finally, I put together a discussion forum rubric. That this is something that I would build into the classroom, and I haven't yet, but I will get to it just to make the grading easier. Most of the online classes that I do work with have discussion rubrics built into the classroom, and it makes life so much easier. And the type of rubrics I like are very specific. That way, there's no wiggle room for me. And when I do things like the mechanics, proper use of grammar, 1 or 2 errors, 3 or more errors, I feel that provides the students, and of course the students would have this and would know that, okay, this is what I need to do and what I need to watch out for. So I think that's about it. As I've said, I believe I have connected all of the parts of this module, and I've connected all the learning outcomes, and I truly believe that once the students finish the module, they will have reading, comprehension, vocabulary skills that we can use to build on next week's work. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great day, and bye-bye for now.